Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 58th episode of Don't Forget the Popcorn. Guys, in the month of October, it's only appropriate to watch Halloween themed and horror movies. It's not even my favorite or second favorite genre, but I have had a love and appreciation for this genre since I was a small child. So I've been watching these things all month, some new and some I've seen a million times. I've watched some of the classics like Friday the 13th, Carrie, and The Exorcist. I've also watched some slightly more art house ones like Suspiria, Midsummer, and The Witch. But even those are still on the more popular side, and people have seen them. Now, last year, I put out my top 10 horror films ever made, and for the most part, that list still stands true, more or less. I'll link that below if you want to see it. This list is different from that. This isn't a greatest list. I just wanted to shed some light on some horror films I don't hear talked about as much. I wouldn't even say any of these are my favorites, just some good fun ones that you may not have seen and maybe you should check out this Halloween season. Because I want you guys to have fun with some new films for your spooky season, I'll add in if these movies are currently streaming on any major platforms as well. I have picked 10 for you. Be sure to like and subscribe. And let's get into the most underrated horror movies. Number 10, Phantasm, 1979, directed by Don Coscarelli. A fun and super stylized 70s horror movie that has so much charm to it. It follows a boy named Mike and his brother on a mission to stop the Tall Man, who is the town's mortician, from murdering people. This isn't a masterpiece by any means, but this film was highly influential with a very unique style to it with very cool set pieces, cool original weapons and kills, and an early Doom reference that works better than the scene in 1984's Doom movie. Remember the hand in the box? The magic in this movie comes from the style and how it is a perfect timepiece to take you right into 70s horror, which is one of the best decades for the genre. This movie is streaming on Pluto, Tubi, Showtime, Amazon, Peacock, Roku, and Plex. Number 9, Videodrome, 1983, directed by David Cronenberg. Before The Fly, Cronenberg gave us Videodrome, one of the creepiest and disturbing horror films. It follows Max, the president of an underground television channel known for its snuff content. Ends up seeing Videodrome, a show that shows real horrors and gives the watcher hallucinations. Max must fight against the powers of Videodrome in order to save himself. This is a wild and wacky one I don't hear getting talked about a lot. James Woods gives a great performance, and we have that gross early Cronenberg style that just makes your stomach turn a little. This is a very unique one, with some insane visual effects. It's the 80s, so this stuff is all practical, and man, it's a sight to see. If you have a strong stomach, make sure you check this one out this season. This movie is streaming currently on Peacock and the Criterion Channel. Number 8, House, 1977, directed by Nobuhiko Obayashi. House is a very weird movie, and I truly mean that in the best way possible. Now, this entry, I must say, is one I really do adore and like a lot on a personal level. This film was about a young girl and her friends going to see her aunt in the countryside of Japan. When they get there, they quickly realize this house is pretty much haunted and it starts hunting them down one by one. This movie is almost a horror comedy and plays like a satire of itself. It's funny, very stylish, with some of the best editing of the time, with a great cast of extremely unique and well thought out characters. Each character has a cool nickname and characteristic about them that aids them on their path to survival. My favorite is Kung Fu. This movie isn't going to be for everyone. It's a Japanese language 70s art house film about a bunch of little girls running around a house. I've sold you, right? This movie is actually incredible in a lot of ways and oddly holds up to this day. This movie is currently streaming on the Criterion Channel and HBO Max. Yes, I still call it HBO Max. Number 7, Near Dark, 1987, directed by Catherine Bigelow. Near Dark is a film I discuss on my best vampire movies of all time. I'll link that below as well for you. Before Point Break and way before The Hurt Locker, Catherine Bigelow brought us Near Dark. This 80s horror western is everything you love about an 80s movie. Fun plot, over the top humor and action, and a gang of badass characters that know how to have a good time. This movie is about a guy who meets a young vampire. They go on a date and hang all night. At the end, she ends up turning him. Bill Paxton is genius level in this film and is easily his most underrated performance. This is a fun, short one you can just toss on and have some mindless fun with. I do really like this movie. It's a great watch for the season. The film's magic lies in its simplicity. Unfortunately, this isn't streaming on anything. I mean, you can't even rent it. It's an extremely rare gem that you may have to go to some other measures in order to see it. Number 6. Daughters of Darkness, 1971, directed by Harry Kumel. Back to back vampire movies, but this one is very different. Daughters of Darkness follows a young couple who run into the Countess at a hotel in France. The concierge noticed her from when he was young and realizes she looks the exact same. The Countess and her helper take a liking to the couple and they plot a plan to ruin their marriage. This is a very erotic and sexually charged horror film. It's very grand, shot in this beautiful hotel with a great cast and very ominous setting. This isn't a very scary one, but one that keeps you on the edge of your seat as you wonder what is going to happen next. This movie is a vibe to the max. Put it on with some candles lit in the dark or some dark or dim lights and set a mood and enjoy this Halloween. This movie is currently streaming on Tubi, Vudu, and AMC Plus. Number 5. The Host, 2006, directed by Bong Joon-ho. Halfway through, now I know this is known in the world of cinephiles and such being a Bong Joon movie, but I know there's a ton of people who've never seen this. Our first entry from this century on this list, The Host follows a family on a mission to get back a child of the family who gets taken away by a mutated sea monster. The Host is an interesting film. It stars one of my favorites, Song Kang-ho, always coming with a great performance. It's funny, tense, emotional, and quite creepy. If you like Bong Joon-ho's other films, you'll like this. It's something very different, and it has a beautiful message in it at the end. Out of all the movies here, with the exception of maybe a few others going to come up later, this is the most well-constructed film in this list, and one I think anyone could have a good time with. This movie is streaming on Roku, Showtime, and HBO Max. Number 4. Audition, 1999, directed by Takashi Miike. One from the great year, Audition is a slow burning journey that just leaves you stunned by the end. Loved by those who've seen it, Audition follows a middle aged man who lost his wife. He wants to start dating again and uses his friend, who is a producer, to fake auditions in order to serve as a dating service. Our lead is enamored by a young woman, and the journey begins there. This film is one that you can watch once and kind of remember it from start to finish. I haven't seen this movie in a little while, yet I still remember it scene for scene, and it often pops in my head from time to time, usually when certain things are brought up. I knew this movie was making my list as soon as I came up with the idea to do this. This Japanese horror film is one you must see if you call yourself a horror or suspense fan. It's one of those films where the payoff is worth every minute of watching this. This movie is streaming on Tubi, AMC Plus, and Sling TV. Number 3. Cure, 1997, directed by Kiyoshi Kurosawa. Not to be confused with Akira Kurosawa, Kiyoshi is the director. Now, this one here is more of a horror thriller, bordering the line of horror, but don't get mistaken. This Japanese horror classic is still very unsettling. It follows an officer trying to catch a murderer who he eventually finds out is using hypnotism to get his victims. The magic in this movie lies in the writing and directing. Kurosawa gives us a bone-chilling movie that keeps you on the edge of your seat, and this is easily one of my favorite endings to a horror movie. This movie creeps under your skin and stays there until the satisfying conclusion. I challenge anyone to watch this and tell me it isn't one of the best horror movies you've never seen. This movie is streaming on the Criterion Channel. Number 2, The Cremator, 1969, directed by Haraj Hers. I think I messed his name up. This is the most unique entry on this list and honestly just one of the best movies ever made. This Czechoslovakian horror film is a very stylish and it's very influential. Far ahead of its time, it follows a man who runs a crematory who eventually ends up working for the Nazi Party. This is a character study that shows how greed and power can lead to complete destruction. It makes you think about morals and family. Crazy thing is, this movie is actually quite funny. The lead actor, Rudolph Ruzensky, gives an all-time performance in this. He is brilliant to the point where you almost think this is how this guy really is. The editing and film techniques in this movie are far ahead of its time and literally some of the coolest I've ever seen to this day. This is a movie that may not be for everyone, but I promise you've never seen anything like this. This movie is streaming on the Criterion channel. All right, guys, last, but of course it's not least, because it's number 1, Santa Sangre, 1989, directed by the great Alejandro Jodorowsky. Well, we are at my top pick for my underrated horror movies, and this is a great one. Directed by the legend and king of style, Alejandro Jodorowsky, we get a beautiful horror movie and one of his most straightforward movies. This film is about a young boy in the circus who loses both of his parents, and his mother's ghost haunts him and causes him to do devious acts towards women. This movie is absolutely insane, but in all the best ways. The costume design, cinematography, music, and the feel and vibe of this movie are like nothing you've ever seen. Some of my favorite horror movie moments lie in this movie. I mean, this film is so grand and original. Alejandro doesn't hold back anything, ever, and that's why he is the legend that he is. I can't say he is a director for everyone, but if you want a different horror movie, not the same old crap you've seen over and over, this is one you should watch this season. Just going over this now is making me just want to stop working and pop this thing on. I adore this movie very, very much, and I couldn't recommend it more for your Halloween list this year. Understand, this is a trippy movie, but if you're looking for a challenge in your movies, this is one you should definitely dive into. This is currently streaming on Tubi. Guys, thank you so much for watching my most underrated horror movies. Let me know if there's a film you'd like me to review. Tell me down below your most underrated horror movies. I got a podcast with my buddy, The Cutting Room Floor. We got a cool episode on there now. I'll link that down below for more movie content. Follow me on Letterboxd to see what I've been watching. Ralph Vader. I'll link that down below as well. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'll be back next week. And don't forget the popcorn.